Welcome back. We're done with all the complicated anatomy of the kidney, and so now we are going to get that urine to the toilet. And so when the urine exits from the renal pelvis and the hilum of the kidney, the next structure it enters is the ureter. And so the ureters are about 25 centimeters long. They are in the retroperitoneum, right behind the peritoneum, and they go right over the psoas major muscles, which you can see in this picture. And in fact, everything in the urinary system is retroperitoneal in location. When we do a cross section through the ureter, it has tunics, but there's only 3 of them. So the layer that is missing is the submucosa. So we go from a mucosa to a muscularis layer, muscularis externa layer, to the, what would it be called? The serosa or the adventitia? You figure that one out. All right, now the thing about the ureters, it's not like when you are dropping a drop of water into a well and every time a drop of water is made, it's going to plummet and go right down. No, the urine collects in the renal pelvis, and then about every 30 seconds, give or minus, 10, 20 seconds each direction, then that urine will enter the upper portion of the ureter, and through the process of peristalsis, it will work its way down the ureter. And so this takes a few seconds to work its way down. So it has nothing to do with gravity, and it's not like your faucet, drip, drip, drip. It doesn't work like that at all. After the ureter, the urine will then appear in the urinary bladder, which is just posterior to your symphysis pubis. And now we are back to 4 tunics, and some very interesting things going on in these tunics. Here is the epithelium. So this is a special epithelium that this is the only place in the body you need to know where it occurs. So go back through your list of epithelium and see what this is. Hint, umbrella cells. Then we have a normal submucosa, which has some dense irregular connective tissue. And then we have really profound muscle layers. We have multi-direction muscle layers, and we have 3 distinct layers. And the muscle is so pronounced in the urinary bladder, it actually has its own name. It's called the detrusor muscle. And then, of course, we have an adventitia. Now, because I can talk about smoking with every organ system, smoking causes bladder cancer. And before you go, oh, why is that? Stop and think for a moment. When you smoke, you are introducing chemicals into your blood and, well, into your lungs, and then they're going to get absorbed into your blood. And where's your blood filtered? The kidneys. Fantastic. And so those chemicals will be filtered out of the blood in your, well, some of them out of the blood. And where do those chemicals then sit for hours every day and even more hours every night? That's right, urinary bladder. And this epithelium up there doesn't like it. Okay, so how much urine do you make in a day? Because some days it seems like you're urinating a lot, other days not so much. Well, your kidneys make about 1 milliliter a minute, and if you did the math, 12 hours in a day, 60 minutes per hour, that's 1,440. So we say you make about 1.5 liters or 3 bottles of this per day, which is 95% this, 95% water. The other 5% are the waste products. So when we look at the inferior aspect of the urinary bladder, like you cut it off so you can look at it. And by the way, this is a female on the left, and this is a male on the right. When we look at this, there is this triangular area at the bottom, which is called the trigone of the urinary bladder, and it has 3 openings. The 2 openings at these upper poles are the openings for the 2 ureters, and then the 1 opening at the bottom is the opening into the urethra. Why do you think the ureter enters inferiorly? This is an interesting question you should think about. And it has to do with what would happen if it opened at the superior aspect of the urinary bladder, what would happen when your bladder fills up with urine? All right, so now we are off to the urethra. So the epithelium is variable here, so you don't need to know the epithelium here. In women, the urethra is quite short. That's the picture on the right. Whereas on the men, it's quite long, depending on the length of the penis. And so there are three distinct areas. The first portion of the male urethra is inside the prostate gland, so it is called the prostatic urethra. After that, the next section goes through the floor of the pelvis, the pelvic diaphragm, that little sling with all those muscles, and that's called the membranous urethra. And then the urethra travels through the penis, and so it's either called the penile urethra or the spongy urethra. Now, there are sphincters around the urethra to help control urine flow. If you recall, in the anal area, if this was the anus, I'll put it like this, so we have it coming down, we had an internal smooth muscle sphincter followed by an external skeletal muscle sphincter. Well, it's not quite the same way in the female. Yes, there still is an internal smooth muscle sphincter, but it's right below the urinary bladder, and then the external sphincter is right above the opening to the outside, which, by the way, has a name known as the external urethral orifice. So whether you're male or female, you have an external urethral orifice. So how does micturition or voiding or urinating happen? Well, by the time you have about a half of a cup of urine in your bladder, the stretch receptors in that detrusor muscle have sent impulses to your brain. And because the internal sphincter is smooth muscle, it will automatically relax. And this is a parasympathetic nervous system reflex, okay? So that internal sphincter relaxes just from the stretch. In addition to that muscle relaxing, the detrusor muscle will also contract. Okay, so if parasympathetic is going to relax smooth muscle, then you know it has to be sympathetic that's going to be contracting smooth muscle. And so yes, both sympathetic and parasympathetic are involved in the smooth muscle in the urinary bladder. But the third thing that's involved that you learn to control with potty training is that external sphincter, which is skeletal muscle. And so that's the somatic nervous system. So the amazing thing is all the parts of your autonomic and somatic nervous system are involved in that simple process when you were 2 years old of learning how to micturate. So here it is once more. Detrusor muscle needs to contract, so it has to be sympathetic nervous system. Internal urethral sphincter has to relax, so that has to be parasympathetic nervous system. And the external urethral sphincter, being skeletal muscle, needs to relax, and that has to be somatic nervous system. All right, so last thing for you to do, now do the pathway all the way from the nephron through the toilet and talk about micturition. And with that, we are done with this section. We are almost done with our exploration of the urinary system.